You're listening to Two Babies in a Business, a podcast where Peter and I talk about everything that's going on in the world and going on in our lives as business owners, as parents, as partners. Today, we know that Peter's been doing a lot of episodes around AI with different folks. He suggested that maybe him and I should talk about AI as well. So here we are, AI. Peter.
AI. It's obviously a pretty hot topic everywhere I go, and everybody I talk to has some kind of interest in AI, and everybody is to some extent thinking about it. It's certainly making a lot of headlines. So, I think where it makes sense for us to talk about it is really its impact on an agency like ours on the future of work. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. I really obviously don't have answers at this point, but it's pretty hard to see what's going on in the space of artificial intelligence and not think that it can't have an impact on really everything. I'm actually listening to an audiobook right now called The Coming Wave. It's by a guy named Mustafa Solomon, who is one of the leading AI, I would say, leaders in the world, one of the co-founders of DeepMind and other organizations, Pi AI. And he talks about really these waves of technology. And the way he describes these waves of technology is that they're these general purpose technologies that have a massive impact on everybody on the planet. And it's really interesting to think about AI from that perspective. And really, it's very accurate, I'd say, to think about it from that perspective, because this is really accessible, easy to use, accessible to everybody, relatively inexpensive already technology that's literally going to change everything. And I know that sounds like a huge statement, and maybe some people would think an over exaggeration, but I think for those of us who have played around with some of these tools, ChatGPT-4 and others, can see just how much this is going to change, day-to-day work, certainly in industries like ours. And so, yeah, it's something that I'm excited about, and I'm certainly spending a lot of time with and playing a lot with. And we're starting to talk in our organization about systems and processes and policies and how to implement this stuff. But I also, on the other hand, am quite concerned about really the future of work and what this is going to mean and jobs. And yeah, it's got a big impact. So that's kind of my opening statement. I know you haven't spent quite as much time as me thinking about this, Christina, but what are your initial thoughts when it comes to artificial intelligence for an agency like ours for the future of work?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. I think that, not that I think you're very optimistic. I think there's lots of opportunities, but our rules are a bit reversed here, where I think it's going to be cool. I actually was playing around with pi.ai, so it's just pi.ai yesterday. Very different than ChatGPT, which I quite like. I feel like everyone probably, especially if you're a marketer or communicator, you've played with ChatGPT already. I think we have the joke internally where, when something's been written by it because of the transition statements, the furthermore, the in conclusion, whereas Pi is very conversational. And I'd encourage anyone to kind of check it out, but it's very conversational. It's very, do you want to play a game? I think I have like the screen open on mine, but the first thing it said to me when I logged in for the first time was like, "Hi, I'm Pi. I'm your personal AI. Like, my goal is to be useful, friendly, and fun. You can ask me for advice, for answers, or we can talk about whatever's on your mind." You can, there's different prompts in here where you can vent. You can master a new task. You can practice a big conversation that you have to have, which I think is really cool. There's one that's feeling calm, planning for the future, teach me a fun new fact. There's one that's like, play a game with me. And so I started a conversation with Pi and just said like, hey, like exactly this question. Like, I'm an agency owner, if you were giving me some advice on staying on top of things, what would you suggest? And I really liked it. Like, the first thing, and I think it's funny because, I've labeled my Pi a him. So he said to me, and you can pick voices. It's very interesting, but basically building AI into your marketing and PR strategies, helping to automate and optimize some processes. I really liked this focus on empathy and authenticity. AI can help with efficiency, but it can't replace the human touch. Ensure your content and messaging are empathetic, authentic, and resonate with your audience. Be transparent about your use of AI. I think that that's something that's very in line with our values. We obviously value openness and transparency, so huge alignment. I asked another question too, like, okay, what do you think will change in the next 5 years for an agency like CIPR? And it talked about content creation. I think that's probably a big one, and talked about different tools that can help make it quicker, but also the need to make sure, again, it's authentic and accurate. Optimization of content, that piece I think is huge. It talked about kind of targeting and personalization, which I think is also a really great ability to become efficient and more targeted. As marketers, I think we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. So being able to kind of add that is huge. And analytics and measurement, I think, again, something really important. And then I said, hey, like, should I be afraid of AI? Was my closing kind of statement to him. And he said, like, actually, the future is really bright for agencies like yours, which I thought was interesting of them to say, but only if you're able to adapt and embrace AI-powered tools. Here's some possibilities. You could have faster turnaround times. You could have greater creativity. You could have increased efficiencies and better insights. And, again, I think that this pie, what I like is I said, wow, like, very wise. Thanks so much. And, basically said, like, he was like, oh, shucks, I'm just trying to help however I can. I truly do think that agencies that embrace AI will be well positioned to thrive. After all, the marketing and PR industry is all about being able to adapt to changes in the market, and AI is the latest example of that. And I feel like that was a really good kind of closing statement from the AI. Marketing and PR is about adapting. Our industry, even the journey we've been on in the last, decade in terms of CIPR, we've had to adapt and change a lot. So here's just another thing to kind of throw into the mix. So that was my chat with Pi yesterday.
Pi AI. Nice, yeah. Yeah, so Pi AI, I actually played with Pi AI yesterday as well, and I was asking it the difference between it and ChatGPT, and it sort of described ChatGPT as more of a general purpose AI, whereas it's described itself as more of a companion, which is sort of interesting, right? So it's sort of really there to be a companion, to have conversations with, to a little bit more, like you said, personable, a little bit more empathetic, whereas ChatGPT, I think, is a little bit more of a here's the answer to the question, here's the facts, right? So it's a little bit more general purpose as a tool. So it's really neat to see all these different tools coming out, and it's going to be really interesting to see which ones survive, which ones kind of get integrated into various different applications. I mean, I think the conversation right now around AI is there's a lot of noise in the AI space. There's a lot of different tools. There's a lot of, some work well, some don't, and it's over time. I think that more and more are going to get incorporated into your existing tech stack, and that's really going to be, what's going to be important. So, in fact, right before we hit record on this conversation, Christina had updated her Zoom and was like, "Oh my God, there's new AI tools in my Zoom," right? And so I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. I think Google is going to have a big play here in terms of integration of AI technology right into your G Suite. You're going to see Microsoft obviously has been putting out some videos and testing some things in terms of the Microsoft suite of tools. So it's really going to be interesting to see how it all evolves in terms of where companies kind of invest and which investments you make today that won't even be relevant tomorrow, which apps are going to be cool today and won't even exist tomorrow because they'll just be integrated natively into your tech stack. So it's a busy, messy space. I mean, I think that in terms of jobs, I'm somewhat pessimistic about jobs in the short term. And that's not pessimistic about jobs in general in the short term, but I'm pessimistic about certain jobs. And I think that certain jobs may no longer exist in 24 months from now. But having said that, there's going to be new jobs that we don't even know about today that'll probably be coming into fruition and sort of becoming new career paths. So we saw that when the internet came. We saw there was digital advertising specialists, there was SEO specialists, there's link building specialists, there's all these things that didn't exist before the internet. And I think the same thing is going to happen with AI. There's going to be net new jobs. I think overall I'm pretty pessimist or optimistic that it's going to have a net positive in terms of economic value creation. But I think to your point, Christina, is companies need to really be paying attention to this today. They need to be talking about it. They need to be putting policies forward in terms. I had a meeting or conversation just with somebody at the Alberta government yesterday, and it was not really the purpose of my meeting. But at the end of the call, I just said, what do you guys? What's your policy, or do you even have one when it comes to the use of AI? And the answer was, well, we don't really have one, and so it's something we're talking about, but we haven't really dove deep into that. And I said, oh well, I think it's got some interesting applications. For example, taking bureaucratic language and simplifying it for end users, and then potentially, and then the person I talked to said, actually, it would be cool from translation perspective as well. So yesterday, when I was watching TV after I put the kids to bed, I just took one of the documents from actually this department, and I put it into ChatGPT and said, can you simplify this, put it in as plain language as possible, and then can you take the original document and translate it to French? And I sent it to a few people who were like, wow, this is great. So it's really, even simple applications like that, simple use cases, could really make a big impact on a lot of companies, right? All of a sudden you have the ability to be in multiple languages really quick, right? I mean, again, if you think about a government department that has, in this particular circumstances, a lot of new immigrants with businesses that sort of interact with this department, the ability to be able to put stuff out in multiple languages, huge in terms of comprehension and understanding, and in terms of being more accessible, right? So, I mean, that's a very simple use case that's like available today, right? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, I mean, my recommendation to everybody is just start playing and start trying, start having serious conversations in your company. Maybe assign a lead, somebody that can sort of, be the sort of person that's out front, taking a lead, trying things out, assigning things to different team members, but also be structured in your approach, right? So it can't just be like go willy-nilly start signing up for $20 a month here, $50 a month here, and all of a sudden you got 50 AI tools and you don't know why and which ones do what. You got to be pretty systematic about testing. Here's a use case. Oh yeah, this worked really well. Here's where it was, limited, and then make a decision as an organization that, yeah, let's go deeper into this one. Let's take this one further, right? The other thing is this technology is changing really, really fast. So just because something didn't work great yesterday doesn't mean it won't work great tomorrow. And so, you got to kind of keep testing it. Unfortunately, we're going to be in this perpetual testing mode, seeing what works in which industries and for which companies. So that'd be my kind of advice when it comes to approaching AI as an organization.
Yeah, I have lots of nuggets there to dig in on. I mean, I think where my opinion maybe differs is I wouldn't assign it out. I would say if you're a business owner, like you take the reins in terms of trying stuff out. I mean, I have a whole list of different links and things that I want to start trying. We built into our VTO, so our goals and our rocks for the year coming up, using this brand, Two Babies in a Business, to start to try some of these AI tools in a really meaningful way. And so I kind of have a list of things that I want to try and see how they work. And we're big proponents of trying things on ourselves before implementing with clients. But I think, you have to be, as the leader of your marketing team or your organization, the one that's willing to pave the way and set expectations. So again, just start using things like you said, and as the leader, start trying to move things forward. I think my fear as a business owner would be decentralizing that, and now all of a sudden you're all these tasks are being done by AI and you don't even know. And I think that one, from a transparency perspective, becomes hard, but two, also just understanding your capacity. I mean, obviously we have an amazing team, and they've been implementing AI and some of the things they do, including kind of optimization for SEO and things like that. But we have very open conversations about how that changes what else we're able to do and how else we're able to kind of go above and beyond and make things better. So make sure you have that relationship with your team as well. What I'd say about like all the tools and stuff at this point in time is like, it very much reminds me of early social media. I was on the ground in a couple different organizations when social media was taking the world by storm. I remember marketing managers and directors telling me that, soon we're not going to have websites, and soon we're not going to have any of these things. And oh my God, and we better figure this out. And this doesn't matter anymore. And, okay, sure, fine. And again, my master's research and my honors research was on social media. And and, was able to kind of, like I said, come in at the ground level of some organizations and give some really good advice. And you did see, like, I remember one organization I was at where it was like, okay, test all these tools for scheduling, for, doing whatever you need to do when it comes to social. And yeah, at the end of like reconciling 5 months, we had a bunch of different tools that we were paying for. Some we weren't using anymore, some we were. And then we made some decisions about, okay, this is the one that works for this organization at this time. I'm sure, 15, 20 years later, they're using something even different now. But really, it reminds me of the insurgence of this piece. And again, I think that if you position yourself as the expert because you're trying and you're moving things along, you go a far way. I mean, this is how I built my career. I, saw social media 20 years ago. I decided to study it in school, and I positioned myself as an expert because I was willing to play and do things. And I got to kind of do some really interesting things for interesting organizations who were, frankly, pretty scared of social media at the time. Then I got to, have a pretty cool career at CAP because of it. And so I really feel like AI is a very similar vibe. I think that it, I don't know, I'd be willing to kind of debate, like, social media is pretty far reaching and invasive in our lives, and changed careers and changed jobs and added new things and did create efficiencies and changed the way SEO works, changed the way marketing works. And again, I think AI is probably a bit more pervasive. Like, you're going to have maybe complete jobs that aren't even related to marketing, automations of process and things. But I also see it in the same light. I think that, there's going to be really interesting things that happen. And, per my advice from my AI pie, I think that if you embrace those things, you're well positioned. I think same as, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when you had marketing agencies not be able to position themselves towards social media, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think what's exciting to me about this time is that it really gives, it's sort of everybody is at the same starting point. And so it really gives small, nimble, innovative companies a huge opportunity to catapult ahead of some pretty big kind of players that are a lot more sort of bureaucratic and clunky, right? So, if you're a smaller organization, medium organization, willing to be innovative and try things, you can do some amazing things and really gain some efficiencies and make some cool things happen really quickly. And I think it's going to be harder for the enterprise level organizations to sort of go down that path, right? They're going to have a little bit longer decision making processes, and they have the financial resources, and they may catch up and get ahead of you again at some point. But there's really neat niches to be carved out, I think, in this kind of time. So I mean, I look at it as, yeah, there's a lot of red flags, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of things that are kind of keeping me up at night, but at the same time, it's like, man, opportunities like this don't come up for businesses that often, where it's like literally the world is unknown, and like anything can happen, and as long as you're just moving forward, innovating and sort of staying on top of things, you can do some pretty cool, amazing things. So I know we have some really big plans. Obviously, we're not going to share those yet today, but they are coming soon, and we've been working really hard at it. So I can't wait to share those things. I'm really excited about it. But we got to obviously get our ducks in a row before we let the world know where we're at.
There you
Any
go.
final thoughts from you?
No, I would say as a leader, just try it out. I mean, I think that, yeah, it can sound really scary, but it's just the next thing on our list, especially as marketers or PR experts, and, go nuts.
There you go. Go nuts. AI. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Two Babies in a Business. To learn more, visit ciprcommunications.com or catch us on our socials at CIPRcoms.